I was asked a question and I want to see if you can elaborate a little bit on it. Can you explain what FTEs are? I know on my side, on the finance side, but how does it affect the HR side?
Yeah, it's a good question. So I think there's a lot of people that maybe understand that there is an FTE, but they don't know it's called an FTE. So FTE really just means full-time equivalent.
Full-time equivalent employee? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. So
that's what I was thinking, but I want to make sure we're on the same page.
So you might have a full-time equivalent, you might have a partial full-time equivalent, which just means full-time, part-time. If you look at a pizza, and so that pizza is a full-time equivalent, if I have a partial, it could be a half, it could be a quarter. It really is just our agreed upon understanding of how much work we need out of an employee.
I guess when GovCom's talking about it, they're talking about per contract. That's what they're worried about, right? Not necessarily how we look at it as our employee.
That's right. There's a lot of places where you don't need a full-time employee. Let's just say I'm not big enough to always need an attorney, but there are times I need to consult an attorney. I might have a partial FTE for an attorney because I know I'm only going to need them for a certain number of billable hours over the course of that month or pay period. When it's written into a contract, you might need a full-time equivalent and you might only need them part-time. So it's really just based on hours. You might say I have a full-time equivalent for a full-time employee and I have a 0.5 equivalent for a part-time employee. But how does that equate to hours and thereby dollars?
Well, basically what we normally do, it depends on the contract that we're going to be bidding. If we're going to have a part-time FTE, then we decide as a company, because we have to have our policies written. We don't have guidelines through DCAA or FAR. We always have to have guidelines here at the company policy. So we have to decide if we're going to have benefits for those employees. Are we going to allow overtime or anything like that? And so we take that and then we integrate it into the price cost of that employee. We're going to take their salary and we're going to add on the G&A, we're going to add on the fringe, and we're going to add on the fees and overhead. All of that's going to be meshed together to come up with a pricing for our government contract. But again, it's going to be on a case by case. If it's going to be full-time, we'll usually use either the 20/80 model that we have, or we might decide, other companies decide to discount the holidays or not. Do you understand what I'm saying a little bit?
For sure. So a full-time equivalent is usually calculated off of the Department of Labor's 40-hour work week.
Right.
So 20/80 hours. And so if you're doing a full-time equivalent, then they might be salaried and they would have fringe benefits figured into the total cost when you do your cost pricing proposal to the government. But when you do a partial FTE, you have to still figure in, like you said, all the different things that make a fully burdened rate.
Right.
But it's a part-time.
Right.
Yeah.
And as long as we're consistent, we shouldn't have any problems with any kind of audits.
But you might have a single employee that serves a number of hours on multiple different contracts.
Right.
And so you can have that individual utilize your appropriate systems to document their time and to do that maybe by charge line so that it identifies where they put their hours, what they were doing, where they were working. But got to be consistent, and there has to be some documentation that demonstrates for them where they look to know what's authorized, what's not authorized. And we have to clarify it as a company what is allowable.